Unfiltered is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp has helped me get through so many experiences in my life where I was questioning who I am or what I was going to become. When you're in your 20s, whether you're an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur, there's going to be a lot of moments where you're not only questioning the direction, but you're questioning whether or not what you're doing at this moment is what you want to be doing in the future. So right now, you may be feeling like you have some stress. I know I do before the end of the year. A lot of times that's something that many of us are starting to struggle with as a new year comes. The question of whether or not you've done enough, whether or not you're on the right path. I'm here to tell you that yes, you are on the right path, but you may even have a great experience trying BetterHelp. It's entirely online therapy designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. I have found all of my therapists through BetterHelp, and it's truly the best way to find your bright spot this season with BetterHelp. So visit betterhelp.com/newunfiltered today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/newunfiltered. And therapy is really cool. So remember that talking to someone, having a therapist is probably the coolest thing you can do for your mental health. In this episode, I've got some major things that are probably going to shock some of you guys, but I wanted to gear it around debt and money. I noticed so many young people in their 20s in particular have no idea what the F you guys are doing with your finances. You're either in debt or you're spending way beyond your means because you think that you can. And I have learned a lot of techniques to get myself out of $25K plus debt. I didn't go into college, so this isn't college debt. This is just life debt from me being an entrepreneur. I have gotten myself out of $25K plus debt from tons of credit cards to where I am now, which is actually a pretty financially stable place. I have savings. I have a minor amount of debt that I'm paying off, and I want to guide you through how I got myself to the place where I'm able to have savings and also pay off this debt. I also wanted to announce in this episode that I have decided to move to London. You may be thinking, Alexa's crazy. She's having like a manic episode. That's not what's happening here. I had my episode. I'm doing a lot better now. But I posted that episode a few weeks ago, I think now, about leaving Austin and going back to LA. You know, doing that and making that move again, it was something that seemed easy for me. I wanted to leave Austin. I've been wanting to leave for a while, and I have an apartment in LA. So making the change back to LA just made sense. It wasn't something I necessarily was super excited about, but I kind of was in this, you have this apartment, you want to leave Austin, so just go back to LA. And I have now been in London for a month. I had this weird calling that I should come here. I have dual citizenship. So I knew I could always move here if I wanted to. But my sister also lives in Europe, and I figured, let me just go for my birthday and see. I wasn't necessarily expecting to find an apartment. I just wanted to come and see the vibe if it was a place I would maybe want to relocate to in the future. And in the 4 weeks of being here, I've made the decision to just move my life here. In this episode, you'll see some of the things that I've gone through that may be relatable in the past month and a half. And I'm going to walk you through that because I think it does talk a lot about something that many of you are probably dealing with in your 20s, which is this quarter life crisis. But to me, a lot of what I have done in my career is set myself up to be in a place where financially I can be anywhere that I want to be, and also just mentally and work-wise I can be. So I'm really excited about this. I have viewed some apartments. I love the life here and the culture, and look forward to being back and forth between the US and London and just starting this chapter of my life now that I've gotten myself out a bit of this crisis that I was in. When you're an entrepreneur, you're always going to face these questions of whether or not what you're doing is right, what you're doing is wrong. And there's no roadmap to this. I was listening to one of the co-founders of Eventbrite on a podcast, Guy Raz, How I Built This, actually, the other day. And it was a great episode. You guys should listen to it because Eventbrite is, a really awesome platform for events. So I'm very aware of Eventbrite because of the space that I'm in with Be Fearless Summit. And it was crazy to me. In this episode, she talks about how they had raised millions of dollars. And after they raised money was actually when the company was doing the worst. She said that for whatever reason, they raised all this money and then all of a sudden, they couldn't keep people putting events on. They started losing money. Then the pandemic happened. And of course, when you're looking at a company that's just raised millions and millions of dollars, you're thinking to yourself, okay, well, this company is massive. They're super big. It's a huge company. They're doing fine. And in reality, a lot of times it's not like that. It's not a matter of you've raised a bunch of money or you've gotten all this exposure and you're doing fine. You may just be equally struggling as much as you were before, but now you have more people to answer to. But the people you have to answer to are the ones that gave you this money. They gave the money because they believe in the idea just as much as you do, but now the stakes are a lot higher. So it may, if you want to be an entrepreneur, I love Guy Raz, I love that podcast, it may be worth listening to that episode. But finances, and if you don't have this shit in order, I think it'll make this quarter life crisis a lot worse. So I started accruing debt maybe when I was about 16. I moved out, went to New York, was totally broke. Then I moved to Boston. And then I've started to talk a lot more in other interviews about how I was making money for a while. And it was essentially doing TV segments where brands would pay me. I would go on air and talk about them. And that was helping fund my creative lifestyle, right? With the blog and the social media and everything. But I wasn't getting paid a lot of times until after the fact. So I would fly to wherever, St. Louis or Detroit, wherever I am. Chicago, do a TV segment, and then say Land's End would pay me 30 days later. But to get there, because I needed that $2,500, that $5,000, right, in my bank account, I would have to put it on credit cards, the flight, everything. And it got me into a lot of debt. And then when I was living in LA and had just signed with Disney, I remember it clearly. I was walking down the street and I literally was talking to my mom, and I just said to her how much debt I was in. And she just freaked out. And I didn't come from any money. So it wasn't a matter of her freaking out like, oh my gosh, why didn't you tell me I'm going to cut you a check? It was her freaking out like, why didn't you tell me? Because I would have told you not to do this. And I was like, okay, well, you were going to tell me not to get into debt, but also you were never going to give me the money because you didn't have it to not get into debt. So I was like, Mom, there was no way for me to not do this. But the thing I want to make very clear here, and I know a lot of you are younger and sometimes even in your teens listening to my content and the podcast, is that you want to do everything opposite of what I did. I'm not saying that you can't get into debt, but the way that I got into debt, the credit cards that I used, and the lack of proper knowledge I had is what got me into debt in a place where I lost out on a lot of years I could have been saving because I was using credit cards and whatnot improperly. So I want to tackle that part first, credit card. If you're a Stay Fearless or Die Trying subscriber, I link a credit card that I'm a fan of a lot called Built in this newsletter. As I've gotten so invested in finances and points and credit cards, I have actually tried to convert a lot of my friends into getting different credit cards and whatnot. I have so many friends who want to travel the world, right? They want to have the lifestyle that I kind of have where I'm able to be here and there, right? Having that ambition and excitement about life and the traveling, I am not doing that because I'm getting myself into debt. I'm doing that because I'm able to do that now because I've been very strategic and smart with my money. And so I tell my friends, get this card, do this. And I'm shocked at how many of them are like, no, but they're all in debt and they don't even think twice about the debt they're in. But then they want to take a trip and then they don't have the money to do it and they don't care about the points. It's wild to me. So if there's anything you're going to take away from this episode, use your credit cards in the way that they don't want you to use them, which is properly. Credit cards are there because they want you in debt. They want you to have interest and they just want you to be stuck with them until you're in so much debt that you don't even know how to get out of that debt because that's how the credit cards make money. The proper way to do credit cards is, okay, let's say, look at all of your expenses, right? The first thing that I did when I got really invested in this is my boyfriend at the time helped me. He put together a spreadsheet with me and it essentially said all of the debt that I was in, all of the credit cards I was in, the monthly payment amount a month that I needed to pay to have no interest, and the day that the payment would come out. For me, that actually was very helpful because I am now able to go back on that spreadsheet and just update it. I have paid off some of those cards and it feels like such a reward to just delete the bar totally, like Amex paid off, Chase paid off. But what we realized is that I had 2 credit cards that had the highest amount on them. And that is what I had been struggling with for a while. I could not find a way to get out of this $10,000 credit card that I had with Chase. So it was the Chase Sapphire preferred card that I had. That was the first big girl credit card I took out. I took out a bunch of credit cards when I was younger, flight credit card, and I actually was able to pay them off. And so those I don't really have anymore. And I just remember taking out a bunch of them, PayPal credit, everything, and using them not wisely. So I want to just start from where I was in my late teens, early 20s, and the debt that I was in versus what I was in before that I was able to pay off again, and then ultimately got myself into more debt. But I started doing it a lot smarter as I got older. So I actually took out that Sapphire Preferred card because I realized I wanted this lounge access. They give you TSA pre-check, whatever. So I canceled all of my other credit cards. Don't do that. Just pay them off or get them on a balance plan, and then don't cancel them. It affects your credit. I work for myself, so credit has never been something I've ever really cared about, but it should be something and I have begun to care about it as I've gotten older, because one day I want to buy a house and whatnot. And that's just stuff that matters. But when you run your own business, or if you take a non-traditional path like I have, you may realize that things like credit are not as important to you as actually just maintaining your business and making sure you should survive. But you don't need to worry about your credit score if you just do your finances properly. So I paid off the other ones. I canceled them. Again, don't do that. That was dumb. And then I went and got the Sapphire Preferred card, which had an annual fee that was pretty high. And this was when I was still kind of building. Now I'm in my early 20s. I was using this card a lot when I was in LA and could not afford to be leading the lifestyle there that I was leading, which was really expensive dinners and crazy nights out with friends of mine who come from way more money than I had or had normal jobs. And I did not. My job was very up and down at that time. So I got myself into debt. So I would get the card up to probably $7,000 and then pay off like $500 and be so proud of myself. And then wouldn't make any money for a month, would put it back on the card, and it just started creeping up. But as I slowly got older and I started looking at these statements, I realized that monthly I was paying literally sometimes close to $400 or $500 a month in interest. That is free money. When I say the credit cards are not your friend, that is money that they are taking, and that is how they survive. I am one person out of hundreds of millions of people who have credit cards. Think how much Chase makes a month in just interest. Probably close to $1 billion. So don't be an idiot. So I got 2 credit cards and I did a balance transfer. And so I could only take out about $8,000, I think, on that. I had about $9,500 at the beginning of this year. And I got 2 cards. One was a Wells Fargo and one was the Discover card. And they both had no interest for 18 months. So I just typed in the name of them online, balance transfer. Up comes the link. And I did just that. I transferred about $4,000 from the Chase to one of them, and then $3,000, and then I was able to pay off the other $1,000. So I now have about, I want to say, $3,000 left that I've been paying off, and have like 6 more months to do so without interest coming on. And the way that I set it up is I put it on a plan where this is the highest amount of debt that I have left, and I wanted to pay it off the fastest. So I'm paying off the most amount of my debt because it was the highest on those 2 cards a month, so that by the time that interest kicks in, I won't have to be paying the interest. Those cards will also be taken care of fully and be done with. So whether or not you decide to do something like that, a balance transfer is very smart and very wise and very easy to do. A lot of people just don't know about it. I didn't even know about it until the beginning of this year, but do it with whatever credit card you have that has the highest amount of debt. And you may need to take out 2 other credit cards, because my Chase Sapphire, I couldn't take that full balance and move it to one balance on another credit card. It had to be 2 different ones because, it maxed me out, both of those. In terms of both of those, that was the max amount you could spend a month. So I did 2 different ones. Now, what I have done over the years is called some of these credit cards, the ones where I realized I was really struggling and in a ton of debt. I called and said I was a small business owner. I was going to have to go bankrupt. I could no longer afford whatever it was, the annual fee, the interest, the amount of APR they had put on the card that month. And 9.5 times out of 10, they will waive it. All you have to do is call your credit card company. And if you get a late fee, if you realize you can't pay the interest that month, ask them as a one-time courtesy, will you please take out the interest for this month? And I am telling you, they will. They will not do it every single month, so you need to be strategic. But what they will do, and I'll tell you this off the bat, is you'll get someone on the phone, say we're calling Chase. Hey, Morgan over at Chase, look, I've realized this month I'm in a really difficult financial situation. I'm about to file for bankruptcy. I'm hoping you could help take off my late fee, or I'm hoping you can take off the interest for the month. Morgan is going to say, Alexa, I totally get it. Let me go check what I can do. Hold music comes on that everyone wants to never come on, but somehow it still comes on. Hey, Alexa, how are you? Are you still there with me? Yay. Hi, Morgan. How are you? Are you able to help me out? Alexa, I'm really sorry. I can't. It's just, we can't do it this time. Crap. All right. Well, thanks anyway. Wrong. Do not do that. Morgan, I have been a long time user of Chase. I mean, please, can you check my record for me and tell me how long I've been a customer? Yeah, it's about 10 years. Totally fine that you didn't know that, but no problem. I'm going to need you to do this for me because otherwise I'm probably going to have to move over to Amex or the Bilt card or whatever it may be. So please go ask your manager. Okay, Alexa, no promises, but I'm just saying. Okay, so now that was fun. I felt like acting. Now that conversation is over, Morgan comes back, they take it off, whatever, you're good to go. Do not just settle. And this is anything in life, right? Do not just settle because Morgan and her dumbass tell you that they can't do it. They can always do it, but they don't want to do it. So you need to push. You need to be fearless. You need to get them to say yes if they want your business. And this is a good sales strategy, right? Rework your mindset and your mind frame to think in a sense of like, they need your business, right? You do not need them as much as they need you because they want to keep you as a customer. They want to keep getting your money. So switch your sales strategy a bit whenever you're trying to get out of debt in this way. And push them a little bit. You have to, because that's how you'll get them to do what you want them to do. Now, if you're in the newsletter, Stay Fearless or Die Trying. If you're not, go to the bio of this video and all the information will be there for you to subscribe. But I talk about the Bilt card a lot, and that's a card that I love. So right now I no longer have the Sapphire because I did the balance transfer and then I didn't want to pay the annual fee on Sapphire. I know there's a lot of lounges involved and I do travel a lot, but at this time I've been to all of the lounges and I would say like 3 out of the 50 lounges you get are good. So I just would rather like pay for a lounge pass or just sit at the gate. I don't really care because I'm frequently about to board the flight when I get to the airport. I don't have time to go in the lounge. So I had them drop me down to a card that's, I think, just the regular like preferred Chase card. They sent me a new one in the mail and there's no annual fee. And so that's a card that I've been using, but I don't use it too much. There's a small balance on there right now, but I haven't accrued any interest on it. So I've been paying it off pretty well. But what I really like about this Bilt card is that you can pay your rent with it. So you're already paying your rent, right? And FYI, this isn't an ad. I've tried to get Bilt to pay me. They say no. I don't know why. So I'm giving them free publicity here to help you guys. Just say la vie. But you're already paying rent or your mortgage, whatever it is. Why would you not want to be rewarded for doing so? So this is step 2 of the like get out of debt conversation, is properly getting out of debt and using the credit cards in ways where they're actually paying you to use them. So I pay a lot of money a month on rent because I have 2 apartments. And so this card is the only card that also gives you a checking and a routing account number. What you don't want to do, that I actually notice a lot of my friends do, which I think is so stupid, you do not want to link a card to Venmo and use Venmo to pay for things. That 3%, that $10, whatever it is going right into Venmo's pocket. And again, you're giving money to a mass corporation that you have worked your ass off for. Even it's $10, okay? But still, that's $10. Like that's 2 coffees right there. Just don't be dumb. So don't link your credit card to Venmo and pay. Use as much and as often as you can a proper bank account to pay for something on like Venmo or Zelle, whatever it is, so that you're not using credit to do it. And this Bilt card does that. So they give you a checking and routing account number. I have 2 apartments. One of them is through like a management company, so I have a portal, and the other one is Venmo. I linked the management company one to the checking and routing account number, no fee, but I also have a copy of the credit card, so it can be used like a credit card. So be careful there. You can get into debt just like any other credit card, but you can also link this checking and routing account number to Venmo, no fee. So I also pay my landlord in Austin the money on the checking and routing account number coming right out of my bank account a month. Every month I pay my rent, they double the points. So it's a point system with a lot of these credit cards. So if you do it properly, you can literally be flying across the world like I do all the time, essentially for free. You just pay taxes and fees. This is another reason why I feel comfortable to move to London now, because it's not like I know I'm going to be spending $1,000 a month if I need to fly back to the US. I have a decent amount of points I can use and redeem. And for reference, they will charge 10,000 points, right, for a flight, and the cost of the flight's $2,500. 10,000 points you'll get very fast. If you spend $3,000 a month, perhaps you may be spending a lot less than that. But if you spend $3,000 or more a month on credit cards, which I do because I want the points and I want the cash back, your points are going to rake up really fast. So I'm able essentially to fly back and forth from London to the US for free, just with taxes and fees, in the same way that I could fly from LA to New York and that flight might cost me $400. It'll cost me the same to fly from London back to the US. So it's just simple. But when you do something like get the Bilt card, you're going to want to link it and then do everything on the first of the month. So the highest initiative with a lot of these credit cards is they do, like on the first of the month, they want the most amount of your money. And so this card in particular will double your points on the first of the month. So you spend $2,500 in rent on January 1st, February 1st, like I do, right? I send that to my landlord. I now get 2,500 points plus double on that day. So I spend, say I have to buy a new couch and it's $500. I've now just gotten 1,000 points. Say I need to get, pay my utilities and my internet. Okay, $100. Now I've just gotten 200 points. Whereas if it's on the second, you may get 100 points. So just be really strategic. Look at the offers for these credit cards. Make the right choice for you. I no longer have the airline credit card like I did when I was younger because I fly a ton of different airlines. Even today, I just got an intro offer email from United. It's like 60,000 points to get that card. And that's a lot of points, but I fly United sometimes, but what's way more valuable to me is having the opportunity to choose all of the different partners. Again, when you're looking at a card that's an airline credit card, they want your business solely. Marriott wants your business solely. There's a Marriott incentive right now. I think it's like 150 or 120,000 points. I mean, that's a lot of points, right? If you're staying in Mansfield, Connecticut at a Marriott, I don't know if we have a Mansfield, Connecticut Marriott. Say you're staying at a Hartford, Connecticut Marriott, maybe 10,000 points, right? If you're in London, it's probably closer to 40 or 50. So that still sounds like a lot of points, but depending where you are, it may only be a free 4-night stay, but it also limits you. I'm Alexa Curtis. I want to live a life with no limits. I don't want to be in debt to Delta Airlines or United. I want to be in debt to everyone so that I know where my money is going and that I have the flexibility. And that's why I like these cards. So in particular, number one, the Bilt credit card, which is what I pay my rent with. Second, I also have the Amex Gold that I just got because the intro offer right now is like 80,000 points. And my friend referred me to it. And so he gets 15,000 points. And so again, for reference, that 10,000 points is for the most part what I spend on a direct flight back from London on Virgin back to the US, 10,000 points. Sometimes it's 7,000 points if I want to fly to Boston. It's free. Plus say 200 in taxes, and I also put that on the card. There is a minimum with this, so you need in 6 months to get a lot of those intro offers. You need to spend $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. With the Amex Gold, you need to spend $6,000 in 6 months, which is $1,000 a month. I mean, I spend $1,000 a month, whether it's on business things, whether it's on Fiverr, whether it's on my newsletter, whatever it may be. So I'm not worried about that. I'm not going to use my Amex to pay rent. It's either going on the Bilt card or it's coming right out of my checking account because I will never spend that credit card fee to link to like a Venmo or something. It's just ridiculous and a super huge waste of your time. So you don't want to be doing that. And then I'll just put everything else on it. Now, when I was younger and I was dumb and I took out those airline credit cards, I never looked at the points. I took it out because I didn't even know how points existed. I didn't even know you could transfer it to travel partners and car apps and whatnot. I had no idea. So I didn't spend that amount of money. I took out all the credit cards, Delta, United, American Airlines credit card I have, but I never got the intro offer points. So I was probably where you are now, where you're thinking like you just need the credit card. You're not even thinking about the points. But the only thing you should be thinking about is the points. So if you're wondering, okay, you want to get right now one credit card, maybe it's Bilt, maybe it is American Airlines or Delta, go online and look up the points guy. He always has a really great website or new blog posts a month that talk about the best credit cards. And just and look if you can do a forecast for your next 6 months. Where are you going to be going the most, or how much do you think you're going to be spending? And it'll tell you the intro offers right there. And they fluctuate. Like right now, I'm getting 65,000, I think, for Amex Gold if I spend 6,000 in 6 months. But in December, it may be 120K points, and it may be worth waiting. I don't know, because you never know when that's going to come. But for me right now, like the 65,000 points is worth it because my friend also gets the 15. So you have to be strategic with that too. But if you do see, say, you see a United website offering 100,000 points, and then you go on United and directly through the email, it's 50,000, call them up. And I guarantee you they will just do a price match. And a lot of airlines also do this as well. So if you see or have status on an airline, I had status on American for years and it was amazing. And then the pandemic happened. I lost my status and I never got back up to gold and I miss it every single day. But I could have called, say, Delta Airlines and asked them to status match me. That's another secret tip for your finances you may not know about. I could have asked them to status match me, and what that would have done is given me equal status on Delta. I think they do it for like a trial period, and then I think you may have to give up whatever your other one is. That I'm not 100% sure of because I never actually did it, but I just know it's an option. So if you realize you've got status on American, but you're going to be flying Delta a lot in the next year, call them up and ask them to do a status match for you. So that's enough talk about money. Just a quick note about that quarter life crisis I know so many of you are going through. I just read a book called The Anatomy of Anxiety by Dr. Ellen Vora. I'm having her on the New Unfiltered at the end of November. And what I want to say is this book was an incredible read for me. I, a few months ago, had a bit of a breakdown. A lot of you messaged me and said like I wasn't posting on social media, and it was because I had to stop. I had to stop everything. I also mentioned on an Instagram story a few weeks ago, I had gotten prescribed Lexapro. I only took it for about 3 weeks. And that is just me personally. Like, I'm not a doctor. Between therapy, which is also why I'm super excited to be partnering with BetterHealth, and just stopping everything, I was able to not feel the need to continue it. But I was actually glad that I had the experience. And perhaps one day, if I need to, I will go back on it. But I just didn't find like it got me out of what I needed it to get me out of, which was this deep depression. And then I was able to kind of fix the rest of my problems with just like taking a step back and talking to my therapist a lot and talking to my family a lot, coming to London. I needed a complete lifestyle shift. And I don't know how many of you are aspiring entrepreneurs or doing anything like what I'm doing at 26, but you may experience burnout. You may experience depression. If you hate your job right now, okay, you may hate your job and it's putting you in a place where you just don't see a future. My advice for you is number one, read this book because it was a phenomenal read. And it's not like woo-woo stuff. It's not crazy out of the box stuff about your body and anxiety. It is about truly being true to yourself and listening to your body. That is one thing I have not done enough and I have to do now because I was fully like broke. I was losing it. And I've always been someone who personally was like, I'm never going on medication, even if my depression gets so bad. And I just was like, this is what happened to me because I didn't stop. And you have to lean into the feeling of confusion because it is part of life. And that's why this term is around, quarter life crisis, right? Like that is what that is. And it's a time in your 20s that everyone, the most successful people go through because you just have to get your priorities straight. And I realized that my priority is no longer being this person doing these very cool things in front of all of the eyes, but also feeling like I have to do it because it is my calling. My calling is to inspire people and to help people. But the downside of that is like, the content is the social media, is the access. And I can't handle that anymore. And so I realized I love my newsletter. I love Twitter. I love the podcast. And that's where I feel like I can impact you guys the most. I just don't feel it anymore on social media. And so I'm just doing as much as I can and as much as I want to because I pushed myself for a really long time to feel like I need to do everything. And that made me lose sight of what I thought and who I thought I wanted to become. So my advice for you guys is to really slow down, is to lean into it. Like you don't need to be on TikTok because it's going to make you famous if you hate it. You don't need to be starting a newsletter, having no idea what you're doing, and you don't even like writing, but somebody told you need to be doing it. The only thing you need to be doing is existing in a state of mind where you want to wake up every day because you like what you're doing. You may wake up and love that morning walk or that morning book read. Let me tell you, I have never loved as much as I do waking up and having a slower pace of life. And I see that in Europe, whereas being in the US, and if you've never been to Europe, this may be totally unrelatable to you. And I'm very lucky that my mom is from England, so I have dual citizenship. I can move here. You probably don't realize actually how insane the culture is in the US with that hustle in. And it wasn't until I came here and I had that breakdown, I guess, a few months ago that I realized there were parts of my life I was going to have to change to become really successful, but to also be happy. And in the US, that go, 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 constantly needing to do everything. You're sitting in traffic, you have a phone call, there's a million things you do. There's never enough hours in the day. That's such BS. Like, there is enough hours in the day, but you have to decide, when do you want to turn your phone off? When do you want to go see your friend? When do you want to fly home to your parents if they're older, right? Like, you have a conference, you have a phone call, you have somewhere you have to be. But what really matters? Like, where do you really want to be? Where do you want to be right now? Where do you want to be tomorrow? And where do you want to be in a week? That is all you can look at. But where do you want to be? Not where do you think somebody else wants you to be? That's where the quarter life crisis starts, is where you are doing things because you think you need to be doing them for the possibility of something happening. But you just need to lean into everything going on. There is a Be Fearless Summit that is happening in April. I'm really excited about, just announced. Make sure you RSVP. I can't wait to see you guys there. There's an FAQ if you have questions. There is an virtual option. There is a New York City event option. So if you decide to buy virtual and you end up being in New York, amazing. I can't wait to meet so many of you guys there. This event is geared toward ambitious professionals in their mid-20s to early 40s versus before we've done it for colleges. And so I'm excited to see this demographic and like what they're focusing on with their career and their personal brands because it's a little bit older than we focused on before. But I'm 26. This is the demographic that, most of you guys are. And so I'm really excited about that. And make sure to follow The New Unfiltered on social media at The New Unfiltered, as well as my social media, which is at Alexa_Curtis. And I'll see you guys next week for a new episode of The New Unfiltered.